How's it going, everyone? My name is Kevin. This is Beyond Polygons, and something I wanted to try. I'm gonna be all scatterbrained. I'm just thinking about stuff. I'm gonna just set this. Here's what I'm gonna do. On my phone, I'm setting a timer for 2 hours. I doubt you can see that, because can you focus on this? I got a timer set for 2 hours. I've got a timer set for 2 hours, and what I want to do is I just want to talk. I just want to talk about video games. In my head, I'm thinking this is like some sort of podcast sort of thing, and I think it's just going to be like a stream of consciousness. It's going to be 2 hours of me just talking about where my head is and what I'm working on. And I know this channel has been all about video games, and video games will be a part of this conversation. It's just I want to be open and just discuss that, because I feel like what I've lost track of, and I've done it before in the past, where I was focused on the numbers and I was focused on wanting to get views and likes and all that. And it's not even just that. I'm also always worried about the brand. I'm always worried about branding myself and things like that. When in reality, all the channels that I'm the biggest fan of are channels that I never actually hit start on that timer. There we go. Now it's going. So you can see how long the video is just by looking at that ticker at the bottom. But yeah, I've realized over the years that my favorite creators are things like, are people like Drew Gooden is a recent one I just started watching. Cody Ko, some of the Viners, great thinkers, and I love their take to comedy. Just comedians in general. Bo Burnham on that list. Vsauce is on there. Philip DeFranco. People who H3 Productions. I know this is tons of shout outs, but I love the way they work. I love their mentality of creating and really relating with their audience. And there's a reason why so many of those channels have multiple millions of subscribers, despite the fact that it's not about the good branding and it's not about the SEO. And those are the people that I'm most inspired by. And what they do, and what they do very well, is exude themselves and bring out their character. None of them are afraid to say what they've done in the past. None of them are afraid to mention their past lives, right? And I'm sure that they're leaving out some of the darker stuff, and I'm sure they're aware that it's not as cut and dry as they come off. But and Vsauce is very produced, I know, comparatively. But a lot of that is like the fact that they have a team and they have editors and they can put it all together. And because they get to work in this collaborative environment, I think the collaborative environment is better for a branded sort of product. And I can do a lot of that myself. I can set up cameras, I can set up a green screen, I can set up a camera, and I can get a good microphone, and I can edit it all together. But I feel like because I'm so worried about all those bits and pieces, it's taking away from the fact that I really am just like a guy who talks to himself on a regular basis. And I want to just do that. I want to just do that right now. So consider this an introduction. Consider this me just being myself and talking to you guys about, Beyond Polygons. It's going to be about video games. It's going to be about tons of different things. But this first episode of this podcast is going to be about me and transitioning into this idea of just a stream of consciousness style of video. I want to try to do this more often. This might just crash and burn. I'm not saying I'm going to break down the what makes games unique format. I'm not saying I'm going to get rid of my old style videos. I do want to still be creative here and there. But what I want to capture is my thinking, and use this as a sort of podcast. YouTube would generally like if there was ads every 30 minutes anyway, so I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to put mid-roll ads on this video, because if it's 2 hours, I mean, I think I deserve an ad here and there. But I'm going to put in some ads, and we're going to see how the algorithm likes it. We're going to see how this channel maybe grows from here, because fact of the matter is, Beyond Polygons was a brainchild of mine. Even though I started on YouTube as a Let's Player way back in the day, whether you know that or not, it goes way back. I've been around on YouTube. I never got some huge following. I had bits and pieces of it. I had a little bit of a following here, a little bit of following there, and we're almost at 10,000 subscribers here on this channel, and I can't thank you all enough for that. But I always wanted. I don't want to say I want because that sounds wrong, right? Like, why should I want to be the biggest on YouTube? It should be about having fun. It's more, I've dedicated so much to my life to trying to use social media to not profit, but just to spread a message, to create, to be creative. But I feel like being creative is all about I feel like being creative is all about thinking, and it's all about unraveling the layers of what you're talking about and breaking things down and looking at things from new angles, right? I'm going to use a lot of examples as well. If you look back on Drew Gooden's really, really old Vines, there's this one joke that he made. It was like there was a series of them, but one of them was it was just titled "The First Bank Ever," where it's like, "How did you ever wonder how banks started?" Something like that. And it's just one of those. So wait, you mean you're not going to take my money? He's like, yeah, I'm just going to, leave it in the back. And, I guess it's kind of safe back there. And it's true. It's something to think about, right? Because at the time when a bank first opened, if there ever were such things as banks, they probably wouldn't even thought of as banks, right? And if anything, they were called banks because, I don't know, they were hidden in a snowbank. Who knows? I don't know. But, and I say snowbank because I'm Canadian, but it's easy to look at the world now and hate corporate America and hate the banks and hate everything. And I like that the humor was just the joke about how nonchalantly a bank would have started, right? And it's not true. I'm not sure that's how banks started. I'm not sure what the science is behind it, but the frame of thinking, to think of how the first bank started, right? It seems so silly in the moment. It seems almost like how did that happen? Was it some government that just said, hey, we're going to build these buildings and they're called banks, right? I could look it up. I could. But I feel like because that knowledge and that information is out there, it's not worth complaining about friggin' banks and corporate America as much as you think, because early on, they didn't exist and everything was kind of cultivated. And it's because in the past 200 years, it's been going at lightning speed of business and society. And I feel like it all started when currency finally became a thing. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. I was going to talk about YouTube and stuff. But anyway, what I love about them, especially a lot of those guys, they're all just, t-shirt wearing white dudes with comb overs because they don't know what to actually do with their hair. And I want to just be as open as possible when I'm talking about things. And I want to try and bring that out of me because I've always been like this. I've always been one to talk to myself and one to always want to put another spin on just what I'm witnessing. When I play a video game, I like sitting there and just asking like, hey, isn't it funny how, like, I got what's the game I've been playing recently? The video I was going to be working on, and I'll still probably get it done. I hope I can get it done. Is on Mega Man Legends. It was supposed to be for May because in May everyone talks about Mega Man, and it's hard to sit down and edit a video when I really do just want to make content that's easy in a lot of ways, but I want it to capture my character and capture who I am, and that's why I want to hold the microphone in my hand and kind of be like a comedian and hey, let's do it. But yeah, so I've been playing Mega Man Legends recently, and it's interesting because as I'm playing the game, I'm always talking to myself. I'm going, what am I enjoying about this? Why is this fun? And I think it's interesting to go back to Mega Man Legends and know that game only took me 8-9 hours to beat. It wasn't a long experience by any means. And I get these ideas that, Mega Man was always that way. Mega Man always had short games. No one looks at Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 3 and the best Mega Man classic games out there and goes, oh yeah, they're these big games, tons of replay value and whatever. It's not about that. When it comes to Mega Man, it's about like the first playthrough and then maybe the second playthrough when you finally know how to beat it. And the replayability was just in the fact that the game was so much fun and so short and it's I want to say learnable, but I'm saying it gets easier with practice, I guess is a better way to describe that. But to just say that, because I had so many friends who I could replay classic Mega Man games with and Mega Man X and all that. And even if you do get stuck going back on the bosses that you remember being really hard, that's what we're creating, right? Like that's the experience you get out of that game. You get this experience of, oh man, here now you're on the hard boss, and oh man, now you're on to it's like now you're on to this stage, and this stage is really hard, and like, oh, this guy's really easy if you have his special move and all that. And it's that kind of conversation. I love that about Mega Man. Mega Man was so simple. And then you have Mega Man Legends, which tried to adapt that and combine it with early 3D adventure games. Now, the thing is I believe the game, like the original Mega Man Legends on PS1, might actually predate Ocarina of Time. And I think it's important to understand that L targeting was a very big deal when Ocarina of Time came out. And Mega Man Legends doesn't have it. You can lock on, but when you lock on, you stand in place, which is really silly. And when you lock on and you have to press both triggers, which is weird because those are also your strafe buttons, because otherwise it's tank controls. So, excuse me. But I gotta drink some water. I got a little bit of water here. But yeah, I was just Mega Man Legends, because it was trying to be an adventure game and doesn't have L targeting or talking. Because Mega Man Legends didn't have L targeting, it had more of like an auto aim. Like if things were a little bit off from the way you were looking, the shots kind of like veered off in that direction to make sure it hit. They traveled towards the target, which was nice, and it was a good way to make it easy. But on top of that, the beauty of Mega Man Legends was it tried to build this world. It really tried to bring something out of it, despite the fact that it tried to be cinematic. It tried to have cutscenes and trying to bring that in 3D. And you can even see it in like later Mega Man X games, that they were trying to tell more stories and they're trying to have like the text and all that. But this game even has voice acting and everything. And it's hard to keep up with the game almost. Well, sorry, I should say it's almost like the game is struggling to reach that cinematic look that it's going for. And I got to play the sequel. I'm very excited to play the sequel because I feel like everyone says it's way better than the original, and I want to experience why. Because the first game really sets up this idea that Mega Man could be a part of a big story. Because keep in mind, all of Mega Man takes place in like alternate futures, not just an alternate reality. Just like it's in a future where AI is becoming sentient, but we're already like past that. Right? AI is already sentient, and now we gotta and now some of them are corrupt and some of them aren't. And next thing you know, it's just like humanity, right? It's interesting because you're looking at, if you're a nice robot, you're a nice robot, right? And then these guys, they want to kill people and whatever. I don't know. It's just, and I feel like you could use that sort of setting to really tell a really big story. So I want to talk about games like that. And I can sit around and I'm like, how am I having fun? The game is really short. It's only 8 hours. Because it is a really fun game. Mega Man Legends it was just really fun. And it's because everything is so jam-packed, and that 8 hours is like boss fight after boss fight after boss fight after boss fight. You get into it really quickly. You get through the game super quickly. And you get to know the characters really quickly. Tron Bon and the Bonds in general are just very easy to love, quirky anti-hero sort of thing, especially Tron Bon. Tron Bon was like the West's first tsundere character, right? She was this first like bratty, like, whatever, Mega Man, I don't care. But then like Mega Man runs off, and then she's like, I hope I get to see him again. And you're like, what? And it's cute in its own way. A lot of people would say the original tsundere character, at least for the West, was what was it, Angela from Hey Arnold? I never watched Hey Arnold as a kid. It was weird. Anyway, I want to ramble about things like that, but yeah, I just want to talk about video games. I just want to express the things that they do, and the littlest things that the game does that makes it feel good, right? That makes it feel like you're having fun. Why is it that some games feel great and other games don't? One of the games I picked up at Anime North, which I just came back from, which is partially why I do a lot of thinking. I like to do a lot of thinking after I come back from a convention. The game I picked up was Donkey Kong 64. And the reason why I picked up Donkey Kong 64 is because one, I didn't own it, which I mean that's enough of a reason. And two is, I have played it before. Like I've played it at a friend's house, and I know it's a crazy collectathon. But when people argue, when people don't really argue about it, when people talk about collectathons, Super Mario Odyssey kind of knocked it out of the park. But at the same time, Donkey Kong 64, by gating just about everything in the game behind collecting all these random things with all these different Kongs, and it's such an extreme amount. I forget if they've added it up, but isn't it like thousands? It's like in the thousands of things. Every level has like 100 bananas per Kong. Like it's just collectathon. It's insane. Like it's a stupid amount of collectibles. But I think that's the point. The point is this game isn't supposed to be beaten in one sitting. You're supposed to keep going back to it, and you work on one level a lot, and then you finally unlock a new character, and then you bring that character back to old levels just to be like, hey, let's try to get some more stuff around here because we can. And I think there's just so much to that game that I want to sit down and really take it in again, because I feel like I didn't play a lot of rare games. A lot of people get really up in arms when I tell them I haven't played, or I have, but like I never beat, and I don't consider it part of my childhood, are the Donkey Kong Country games for the Super Nintendo. Because I didn't have a Super Nintendo, I had a Sega Genesis. And the only games I really played on the Sega Genesis was Sonic the Hedgehog. So Sonic is really my basis for video games. And Sonic 2, Sonic 3, like fantastic games. Absolutely fantastic games. And Sonic Mania, as we've learned, hit the ball out of the park. But because of that, I do want to go back and I want to play like Super Mario World and Donkey Kong 64 and Donkey Kong Country, as I was mentioning. And even like Super Mario Brothers 3, I've played a lot of that as a kid, but I never ended up beating it. Again, like I never beat the Mario games as a kid. Heck, I didn't even beat Ocarina of Time until I was like 14, 15. And that game came out when I was like 7 or 8, something like that, right? So I came into it really late. The GameCube was already out. It was the Wii. The first time I beat Ocarina of Time was on Wii Virtual Console, to be exact. So my take to video games isn't the same, and no one's take to video games is going to be the same as anyone else's. But that's what I want to really discuss. That's what I want to try and bring to my honesty when it comes to talking about video games. Now, in terms of this whole podcast thing, I don't have notes or anything, but something I'm trying to do more often is take notes. I want to take notes more regularly, and just really talk about, things that really, it's just, some of these are weird. Some of these are are really weird. Some of them, like I don't want to get political, maybe too much, but how do I do it? How do I describe this? I want to take notes, and it's just me when I'm really racking my brain and I'm thinking, and I want to take notes when I'm at work and stuff, and just talk about the different things in my life and how much and how like some of these are like video ideas and talking about the weird stuff that I'm been thinking about. Like here's an idea. I might turn this into a video, but I guess I'll talk about it right now. Actually, no, we'll get back to that. I want to finish what I'm talking about with this whole podcast thing. In terms of this podcast and what I want to do with it, or whatever we want to call this, I want the comments and everything to be a part of this. I want to, if you leave comments, and one of the if you give me a really well worded comment, it doesn't have to be long by any means, but if you just give me a few ideas and maybe try expressing a certain viewpoint about how this whole thing should be run or something, let me know. Write it out, and I'll talk about it. Like I'll save comments on my phone as well, and I guess that's a way to transition with the notes thing. But I want to actively take the input and put it into this, and I don't know if I want some sort of hello fellow gaming enthusiasts, welcome back to Beyond Polygons right at the beginning of all of it, and maybe we'll naturally sort of find one. But I want to be a part of it. I do want to talk about the games, but I also do want to talk about life and everything, because I feel like that is something that's very important to talk about, because Okay, so I'm gonna go way off track, and I have to get back to the notes later. But I realize I've only been going for like 20 minutes or so. So I mean, I got a fair bit of time. I just hit the talking part of the mic with my thumb. Hopefully my hand moving around on the mic doesn't make too much noise. Anyway, so something I'm doing right now, something I'm gonna try, and something I've been thinking about is I'm gonna stop using Facebook for a bit. I definitely wasn't using it for a good while, and probably when I started YouTube, and I think that might have been why I was very optimistic early on. Because then I went back to Facebook, and I understand, like, when I was in school, it made sense because I was like keeping in touch with like classmates and we're working on projects and whatever. But Facebook, like, I needed it at the time, and this is like this is not even university, this is college, which in Canada is kind of different. But I wanted to. Where was I going with that? I want to get off Facebook again. And it's just because what I'm noticing what the internet is and it all brings back to like YouTube and social media in general is the world is all a screaming match. The internet in itself is just a screaming match. Who can be the next provocative clickbait title, right? It happens with politics. And again, I'm not going to get political, but just the stories that are coming out now. Philip DeFranco talks about this as well. What stories are talking about now? They're fighting over having the best headline. What headline will make people read this article? It's not about writing a good article anymore. It's about writing a really great headline. It's about what can we say that'll just irk people the right way. And you know what? Some people won't even read the article and they'll base their opinions off the headline. It has to be that way because like that's what they're doing, right? If you take the time and you actually, because I try to have a positive look on any situation, just because no matter how much you can hate an individual, no matter how much you can disagree with an individual, the fact of the matter is the reason that person maybe upsets you or whatever is just like in this moment, right? And it could be multiple moments over a couple of years, but like you and that person, your opinion of that person probably only came to you recently, right? Because I think back to like when I worked a fast food job for far too long, and I just think about like all the higher ups that I didn't like. The managers that just like, man, like they really just, man, like they just like, do they not care about my well-being or anything? Like it's like. And like my mental state, like, do they really think they can just yell at you and be like that? And it's one of those really weird things to think about because you have to think about it. And they're like, well, they're into their 40s and whatever. And it's like, were they always like this? And I'm not saying I like sympathize with people who are innately rude to people, but it's something to look at. And I feel like the media fighting over these clickbaity titles and trying to push the envelope with every video, and some could argue Logan Paul and Jake Paul, and there's so many people though. There's so many out there that are just trying to just grab the views and not make the great content. Just get the views. I want to find a way. I want to find a way to just be myself and talk and just not act like I'm some expert on everything, just being me, just talking. I just got some crazy deja vu. Did I do this before? I don't think I did, but I just want to be me. I just want to talk into the camera, and yeah, I just want to express that with a lot of this, I'm just thinking out loud. It's the way that I generally take to myself. I want to think out loud, and I think in this very I try to think optimistically, and I can get really down on myself too sometimes. But yeah, so I want this whole podcast thing to be me thinking out loud about video games, about the world. Leave me suggestions on games you want to play. I still got to play Danganronpa. I feel like that's probably one of my top requested games, mainly because it's on my list. And I've covered a lot of visual novels, and people still want me to cover it. So I really do want to cover it. just got a text and I don't know who it's from. Sorry. But since like, I hope you had a good time at Anime North, and I don't know who that was, and I was like, thanks. It was just like numbers. I'll probably text them back. I'm like, so. Anyway, but yeah, I'm just always trying to think things out, and what happened at Anime North is I was talking to a friend, and it was like a mutual friend. It's a friend that I really only see at Anime North, but it's funny because it's at the same time I feel like I related with him more than everyone else in that group, you know? And I'm getting this sense that like there's these people, a lot of us are just trying to feel out the world, right? To give you to break the realism here, or to break the facade, I should say, to bring in the realism here. I'm like I'm living in my parents' basement right now. Like I'm not going many places in my life. I'm gonna go back to school in September, and I'm gonna finish my degree, and we'll see where the world takes me. I don't want YouTube to be like this. I'm trying to make YouTube work, guys. I gotta get famous. I want to get famous on YouTube, but I want to spread my message. I know that it's inside me. I know I just want to scream out who I am and what I'm about and what I'm thinking, because I just feel the need to do it. I feel like maybe I am some sort of entertainer, but the people that I'm comparing myself to, Bo Burnham, like I said, Max Landis, John Mayer is in that group. He had a great interview with Sean Evans on Hot Ones. And I had never listened to John Mayer's music. That's not me trying to be like, I wish I was John Mayer. We both like white guys. We got brown hair, and like we wear T-shirts, and we're just like, I'm so romantic or something. Like, it's not even like that. It's just I watched. This was like this is the most interview I've ever seen of John Mayer. Like, other than hearing Your Body's a Wonderland and Waiting on the World to Change way too much. But what's interesting about John Mayer is he had this really interesting mentality towards life and living. And it was just something like, they were talking about Justin Bieber, and he just said, I forget what it was, but he said something along the lines of, he just said, like, you know, he's still a kid. He's still young, right? And he's very talented. And trying to handle all that and trying to figure out your place in the world when you are that talented is insane. Now, I'm not saying I'm anywhere near as talented as John Mayer or any of those characters, but it was just any of the people I've mentioned. It's just the mentality to just be like, I know that he's messed up. We know that he's, you know, he did the easy music with Baby, and it's like, but you got to remember that he was that kid in Stratford, Ontario, with his guitar outside the movie theater, just screaming and singing out. Sorry, I guess the better way is screaming, just singing his lungs out. You could see the power in the way he was singing back then, right? And it's easy to look at him now and just like, oh, he's some dude clamoring for attention. And I think it wouldn't be wrong of me to keep a positive mentality about everyone, which is also funny. A weird spinoff that happened at a weird thing that happened at Anime North. I got to talking to one of the retro game booth vendors, and I love retro gaming booths. I think they're such an interesting like market, right? They have to love video games just as much as all of us, but they have to collect them and sell them, right? And they'll still talk about it. They'll still talk about the games that are worth a lot of money, and they'll talk about games that are just really fun. And the camera just cut out, but I'm going to keep talking. We'll get it back on in a sec, because luckily the audio is still recording, because we record them separately, which is the way to do it. I got to do a clap here. 1 sec. There we go. That's how you line up the audio. Break it. It's just breaking the fourth wall. We're just, we're all falling apart. Okay. But, yeah, it's just, I want to talk about, and I was talking to him. Sorry, I remember my train of thought now. I was talking to him about just like, because I knew what booth it was. To give away the business, because I shouldn't shy away from that. It was One Up Games from Hamilton, Ontario, and they're at the Com Bravo booth. Then, if you happen to be going to Com Bravo, I'm going to be there. And yeah, I was just talking to the guy, and he was just really cool. You know what? This podcast is probably only going to be like an hour. If I look at the timer on that, what's my time? Oh, geez. Yeah, I still got like a half hour. We're only going to go for an hour. I thought I could talk way more, but I guess because I'm trying to be, focused on gaming right now, it's a little bit less exciting. But yeah, I was talking to him about like games and like their prices are pretty good. One Up Games, Hamilton, Ontario, great group of guys. And if you're at Con Bravo, I'm going to be there. That's what I ended on. I go on a lot of tangents too in my brain. But yeah, I was just talking to him about games, and that's where I got the Donkey Kong 64. And I also picked up Simpsons Hit and Run because I'm excited to play that again. Because it's like The Simpsons if it was Grand Theft Auto, but it's so cartoony and it's so goofy that it's not like Grand Theft Auto. Because Grand Theft Auto is about being real, and I feel like people forget that there's like always a really good story in Grand Theft Auto. I was talking to my therapist about it. There's a big difference between Modern Warfare, like Call of Duty, and like the idea of, oh my god, I'm gonna get all 25 kills, I'm gonna get a nuke, oh, get pwned, noob. And then there's Grand Theft Auto, which, the Grand Theft Auto that I played the most was San Andreas, followed by Grand Theft Auto 4. I beat both. Grand Theft Auto 4 is about, a Russian who moves to America for the American dream, because that's what it's usually about, the American dream. And of course he gets mixed up with crime because his cousin's flawed and is Roman. It's like, is his cousin Roman? It's like, no, it's Nico. It's your cousin Nico. I don't remember. It's been a long time. But you picture him, and I can picture him coming in, and there's such a realism to it. And I think that was the beauty of Grand Theft Auto. That is the beauty of Grand Theft Auto, is that it is real characters. It's built within this realm of reality, right? In Grand Theft Auto 5, which I played a fair bit of, sure, you got, I can't remember any of their names, but you got the African American fella who's, I don't remember his name, and I don't want to come up with something, I can't remember his name. But he lived in the slums, he lived in the bad part of town, if you will. And it's not that he wanted to live that way. It's just, it's just the way where he is, right? It's just where he is in life. And then you have Michael, who's now a dad who was successful, and sure, he might have been through illicit means, but that's the world he's in, right? That's the world he's in now. And then I didn't get to the part where I started playing as Trevor. I think I had just unlocked him, but as far as I'm aware, he's a funny character, and he's so weird. But he's like the redneck, and there's always the redneck in those games, and it's really funny. Well, not in the Liberty City ones, because there would be no Liberty City in New York, but in San Andreas, they made it a point to go out to the country as well. Just because I feel like it is a big thing about society, is that there's so many different perspectives to look at the world from. And yeah, so I want the podcast to be about that. I'm going to keep going back to that's what I'm trying to talk about, guys. I feel like this is a perpetual explanation of what this podcast is. Is that the title of this video? Perpetual. It's going to be introduction, Beyond Polygons podcast, or some sort of name, and introduction, and perpetual explanation, or perpetual planning. I don't know, something like that. I'm trying to think more profoundly, and I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing. It can come off very pretentious, but I'm just always trying to think. I'm always trying to think of what I want to talk about, what kind of games I want to review. And the hard thing about doing game reviews when you're trying to think critically, one of the early phrases that we had on the channel, if you go way back on like the early videos with the green background, it was Beyond Polygons, critical about gaming. It doesn't sound great, but it was just the idea of we're being critical. I wanted real critical thinking. Just the idea of, let's break it down. Let's talk about all the bits and pieces that make a game great. Is it the jump mark? Is it like the speed in which they jump? Because that does matter. It's the fact that your jump can be very, like, you look at games like, the Impossible game where you're like that block and it's like going along, and then the spike comes along and you jump over it, and eventually it works its way up to having blocks that you got to jump on, and then you got to jump over a spike that's on a block and all that. and then it cuts out and it says go buy the game at some point. I'm sure, I hope I explained it well. Maybe I'll put it on the back behind me. But yeah, like that kind of game, your jump mark's always the same. You jump and you go up and you go down at a set speed, right? And what's interesting is they give the square like a rotation as it's doing it. So it's weird because like I feel like that gives you a sense of like where you're going to land, and you know how far you get because you make like a whole 180 as you flip. Well, it's not a whole 180, it's a half, but you do like a 180, right? You flip over as you jump, but it's just because of that you get a sense that you're doing like a tuck and roll jump sort of thing. So it does kind of feel like it would be one smooth motion. But then you look at games like Sonic and Mario where the jump button can be very light. If you press it lightly and you tap it really quickly, you get a short jump. But if you hold it, you jump that little bit higher. And it's that little thing that made platforming feel bigger, right? Now platforming was, it took practice. If you were playing it really quickly, you had to know when to do like a really short jump and when to do a really big jump, right? Depending on how far you needed to get across the gap or whatever. And I think that's the subtle beauty to platformers, and even in the 3D games, same thing. And if anything, I feel like what may have gotten lost when Sonic went 3D was they started focusing more on like how to defeat the enemies and how to jump on the enemies, as opposed to how do you incorporate the platforming into the game, right? And I feel like Sonic's 3D games kind of lost the platforming and became more about homing attacking on enemies, which is fine and it actually is still fun. But it was weird. It was more about running and less about jumping and going through loops and stuff. It was weird. Anyway. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to talk about games like this. I'm going to get back to my notes and the note that I said, because this was going to be a fun one. I was going to enjoy this. This was an idea I had in my head. It was a conversation I wanted to have, and it was so I was talking to my friend, and the friend that I don't know him all that well, like personally, but like I just relate to him. I just get we think similarly. We were talking about religion at first, which was interesting, and then we ended up we're talking about Dragon Ball. And I think what was interesting was because we were talking about like the New Testament and the story of Jesus Christ, and we're just talking about, don't think of Jesus as like he really existed. Just think of Jesus as the main character, and he just had plot armor for all of it. And then eventually we just got onto the idea of like Goku, and like, Goku has plot armor, right? He has probably the strongest plot armor of any anime I've ever seen. Goku always wins in the end somehow. Even when he loses, he still wins somehow. And even he almost steals away the achievements of others, right? I remember watching the Broly movie, and it was Gohan or Goten, one of them has to do the Kamehameha. And no, it was Gohan against Cell, right? He does the Kamehameha because Gohan is the one who defeats Cell. And he does it, but it was because Goku sent his energy through the cosmos and was like able to send it to him or whatever. It was really weird. But like Goku kind of like, did he steal that win? And even when Goku does die, he still looks on from the afterlife, right? It's always the most cop-outy thing that he can keep coming back and he keeps being the solution to the problem. But I think that's the point. The main character of an anime isn't supposed to be flawed, right? Because you always talk about like, oh, the main character, he just comes off as a whiny brat, whatever, and he gets the girl in the end. That's dumb. I think that's the point, though. I think the point of it, because I wrote the way I wrote it down, the actual wording I used was I wasn't sure how to title it, but it was going to be called Dragon Ball and Earning Plot Armor, or How Goku Deserves Plot Armor, or deserved or earned his plot armor, sort of thing. And it's just because it's not because keep in mind, I got to go back and I want to watch Dragon Ball again because I feel like Dragon Ball really explains more of the backstory there. But I think what's interesting is I remember vividly the first episode of Dragon Ball Z when it came on TV one random day when I was at my babysitter's, and I must have been only like 10 or 11 at the time. But I remember just watching it, and because the first episode of Dragon Ball Z is very different from a lot of other episodes, because it has all the characters from Dragon Ball in it. You have Master Roshi, and you have all of them, and the first thing they do is they introduce Gohan. And it's like, hey, look, we got a new kid. It's Gohan. And what my friend was telling me, because he was explaining more about Dragon Ball, what he said was, because Goku marries Chi-Chi, that's how that ends, because he says, is like, because he thought marriage was a food. And that's what he says. And I didn't even watch that. I didn't know that. But I'm like, that's such a kiddie thing to do. And at the same time, it's like a really great adult joke at the same time. I thought marriage was a food. And you're like, oh, what are you doing, Goku? Are you going to, because then you're thinking about eating Chi-Chi. And then you're like, oh, no. Oh, that's an adult joke. But it's that sort of thing that made me just kind of go. And then Dragon Ball Z starts. There's a time jump because then Goku's like, hey, I'm an adult now. And look, I got this baby. We gave birth to a baby, right? And it's interesting because that baby is a Saiyan, right? And that's the important thing from the get-go. It's like we gave birth to a new Saiyan, right? There's going to be more of these things. Because prior to Goku, there were no Saiyans on Earth. Earth was this whole other thing, right? But what's interesting is because eventually we got back onto the topic of Sun Wukong, right? And how Sun Wukong was this character who was banished by the gods for just being too much of a jokester, too much of a friggin' hapless idiot, right? And that's Goku's character. Goku's character is all, hey, I'm Goku and I'm going to beat you up. And you're just like, how can you always be like that? He was always so confident and almost naive to think that he could always win. And I think it's a character archetype that nobody ever wants to talk about because it's so boring. He always wins all the time, and he comes and he's all like, yeah, I'm going to win. Yeah. Because it's a great mentality for kids, because you should tell kids never to back down, to never give up, to always stand up to your challenges. And Goku somehow wins in the end. And I was kind of connecting it to how, Goku's kind of like the Jesus to the entire story, right? Because the entire story of the Bible is everyone hates Jesus except for, the people closest to him. And it's the same with Goku, right? Even in the real world, when people talk about their favorite characters in Dragon Ball, no one talks about Goku. The fan favorite is Vegeta, right? The fan favorite's Vegeta because, one, he's the anti-hero, because he's the Shadow the Hedgehog to Sonic, right? He's just like that cool character who fully and truly believes that he is stronger than Goku. But he just doesn't understand. And that was the other sentence I did. The other one I wrote was, Vegeta's only problem was that he thought he was the main character. And it's a reason to love him, though. It's a reason to love Vegeta because he's trying so hard to just show up Goku that Goku, you can't just keep winning all the time. It's not fair. But life itself is unfair, right? That's the idea. And then we're getting all depressing with this conversation. But that's what I mean, though. That's what's interesting about it. Because Goku never gives up and never surrendered. And even when he loses, he's still got a smile on his face. He's like, hey, you guys got this. And you're like, what do you mean? Goku, what are you talking about? And then Vegeta loses to him, and Vegeta from what I hear in Super, because I don't watch Super either, Vegeta loses to Beerus and whatever, and it's just like, man, there are so many layers to just Vegeta's character, and there's the scene with Bulma, and he stands up for his wife and everything, and it's those sorts of things that bring out a lot more in why we cheer for Vegeta, because he started as, I'm the Prince of all Saiyans, and you can't beat me. And it's over 9,000, right? I think it's interesting because Goku always loses every first battle, right? He's always the first one to fight the guy that shows up, and then he loses, and then he comes back and wins. It's the weirdest thing. But yeah, so I just thought that was a really cool way of looking at Dragon Ball, is just to think that I know Goku, I'm not telling you to like Goku. I'm just telling you, I'm looking at it from the perspective of But it's because of his character and because he's such a hapless idiot and almost unlikable because he doesn't earn anything in the world. He doesn't deserve like to win all the time. He Everyone else looks better because of it though, right? And it makes me think of even like pro wrestling and Roman Reigns, and like you look at Roman Reigns and they're pushing the crap out of him because they're just like, hey, we want to make you like, you know, how do they put it? They want to make how was I describing? They want to make Roman Reigns the guy, but he never wins. And you're just like, come on. The problem is that they're rooting because nobody else is getting over, because he wins against all the crowd favorites and then loses to the guy that everyone's expecting him to be. Like it's poor booking. I don't know what it is, but maybe that's what they're doing. They're doing it because it was at the Royal Rumble this past year. Now I'm on to wrestling, which I honestly believe that wrestling should mix with nerd culture. But it was a moment with Shinsuke Nakamura, who was a huge crowd favorite, who was left in the ring with Roman Reigns. And the moment, what Shinsuke likes to do is he gets and he really like hulks up and he listens to the crowd and he goes, come on. He goes, come on. And then he yells it and the whole crowd erupted because they were cheering the crap out of Shinsuke and they wanted Roman to lose. Right. And I just find it interesting because it's easy to hate Roman and that's the point. Maybe that's what they're going for. The problem is that then he loses to Brock at Mania, and you're just like, you might not just give him the belt. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with him, and it's I don't know. I can't tell if it's like some insanely super smart next level thinking kind of booking, or if they're just ruining it. Sorry, I overthink wrestling a lot. Another name I had for this podcast was just the Overthinking podcast, but I've been talking for about 45 minutes now, at least according to that clock, which is pretty good. I think we're doing all right. I think an hour is about the right time. We'll do an ad maybe like every 15, 20 minutes, something like that. I think that seems like a good idea. But I guess with the rest of the time, I just want to say, like, again, YouTube to me is something that I've worked on it for so long, you know? It's hard to give it up if I ever were to give it up. And a part of me was thinking that if 2018, this channel goes nowhere, I'll just stop uploading. Like, what's the point, right? Like, I'll be going back to school by then and I'll just worry about school life and whatever. And the problem is I just feel like I haven't found myself. The problem is I just don't feel like I know what I want to do with my life per se, because I've been working so hard on YouTube and it's been something that's so fulfilling and fun in its own way, right? That, you know, I couldn't do a regular job. And that's the problem as well, is that I feel like a lot of people want the 9 to 5, but most 9 to 5s now are either crappy working class jobs where you go into the factory at 9 and you're there till 5 and you go home and that's it and it's done. And it might pay well, but it's a very boring, monotonous job. Or it's a kind of easy, but you have to like just know what you're doing sort of thing job, but it comes with a lot more implications of you can't mess up ever because you're gonna have to talk to people, and hey, if anything's come up, we got to make sure we can reach you. And that's what happened to me at the office, and that's what I didn't like the fact that I was talking to people and that I was afraid to check my phone when I got home. I'm just venting now, but it's a lot to think about, and a part of me just wants to just talk, because as you can see by this 45 minutes, I just love talking. I just love talking about video games, and that's what I was doing at Anime North with my friend, is that we were really bouncing off ideas off of each other, and that's something that I kind of want to do. I kind of want to have this cool idea for guests on the show. So I want guests that are either like just part of my life. I also realized I think I got the lighting wrong on the white balance wrong on the camera, but we can try and fix it up. It doesn't look too bad. But I want to talk to like certain guests, and that's going to be a lot of fun as well. If I can get guests on board where we can just talk about like just anything. I just want to talk to like close friends, and I want to talk to I would love to pick the brains of like some of those YouTubers that I've mentioned, but that's I gotta look at that way down the line. Like that could I can't. It's easy to shoot for the stars, but it's even easier to miss. It's easy to shoot for the stars, but it's easy. Sorry, I guess the way to do it is it's easy to shoot for the stars, but it's very but you're not gonna hit it, sort of thing, right? It's that's the sad way to look at it. But like only, but if you don't take the time to aim, you're not gonna hit it. I guess that's the real phrase. It's easy to shoot for the stars, but you won't hit it if you don't know how to aim, sort of thing. I don't know, because I think in those sorts of frames of mind, and I want to work my way up, the YouTube ladder, if you will. And that's the problem with YouTube, because I think YouTube has really come down to this whole, oh, you gotta make a video every week, you gotta put out a video every day. And I feel like with this, if I can do cheap 1 hour content every week, but it's like a podcasty sort of thing where it's just me talking to you, and if we can get a set someday, maybe we'll find the right picture to put back there. These are the kind of comments I want to see. I guess that's how we'll wind this down. Is like, give me ideas for what to put on this green screen behind me. Maybe I'll put like just the stuff that I'm talking about. Maybe there could be like some sort of like base set that we just put behind us. That's some sort of like way of doing it. In terms of music in the background, do we want to put the gamey sort of music? I have the market from Mega Man 64 in my head. The do 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 do. Do, 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 like that one. Like it's a pretty song, but I feel like it would get really boring if I kept that on for a whole hour. So I feel like maybe I could commission like some new opening theme sort of thing, the theme that just like eases us into it, the early bits. Because if this is like a podcast, I'm just supposed to talk, right? Like it should just be my voice and some white noise in the background just to kind of mellow it out. But yeah, so give me ideas for that. Like I was saying, for guests, give me ideas for guests. I would love to just get to know some, like I have YouTube friends that I've met over the years. I would love to talk to them. I'd love to pick their brains. Some of them have become very successful. And they don't have to be here in person. We can probably try to find some way where we can, I kind of want to do it in like the realest way possible. I want to record their audio if I can. And I guess I could just do that by calling them on Discord and talking to them over this. It's just things like that. It's just, I always want to be able to talk about, I just want to pick brains. I just want to talk about stuff, and we'll go over ideas. And I know I'll have notes. I got a lot of notes on like, on random things. I'm going to try to put out a video every week, hopefully, if I keep up with this. I want to try and keep up with this, but it's hard. But yeah, we'll try to find some sort of, conversation. Some of them are like Goku trying to earn plot armor. Some of them are depressing conversations I have with myself. But this all stemmed from the fact that when I was, while I was there, we were hanging out, and we all were just like, hey, just chill back, and it's a party. We'll put it that way. We were consuming multitude of things, alcohol among them, and we were just playing like we were just hanging out. We were just talking, and there was a tree in this park, and I decided to jump up and climb into it. And what was funny about it was because I'm in a tree, and I had gotten comfortable, and I was leaning back on one branch, and I was like kind of laying down, but I kept my legs wrapped around the main trunk of the tree just to keep myself like attached to it in case I did like roll over or something. Because I wasn't too tipsy. I obviously was able to climb the tree fine. But yeah. And I just started talking. I just started talking about life. And it's very easy because I just feel like I'm a logical person. I feel like I think very... Yeah, I try to look at the logic in any situation. I try to think like, how could things happen? How did this happen? I try to think of the thought processes behind everything, even behind my own actions, right? I try to think of like, why would I want it that way? Why did I do things this way? Is my dog going to come say hi? Sorry. My dog's just outside. And she's out there. And I was just talking about stuff, and it's easy, but the hard thing about logic is it's easy to look at society and the world as just like everything's inconsequential. we're just carbon-based atoms floating through space and we're on some planet that just happens to be full of oxygen and who knows what else is in space. And you're like, we're so insignificant. And it's like, I get it. But the important thing is that, whether you live to be 80, 100, or if you tragically come to an end early in life, the important thing is like, this is the only mentality, this is the only reality we'll ever know. No matter what you think about the afterlife, no matter what religion you follow, whether you're atheist or otherwise, this is the only brain that we can promise. These are the only memories that we can guarantee ourselves to have, because it's what we have right now. And I don't think anyone in the world is trying to ruin it for anyone else. And this all comes back to like the whole Facebook thing and all the because there's a friggin' election going to be going on next month, and things all go down. And it's just, everyone's mad. Everyone wants the right people to win. Heck, when I was at Anime North on the last day, there's like a religious group came around to like protest or something. And I just look at the whole thing. I'm like, this is what? Because I'm sitting here, I'm like, what are they saying? Are they being like, don't watch anime? Anime is made by the devil or something. And it's true. I'm not saying it's true in that sense, but I understand, like, because I went to a Catholic school, we weren't allowed to read Harry Potter because we don't believe in witchcraft and wizardry sort of thing. And we didn't care. We still went to the movie when it came out. Like, no one cared. But, here they are protesting. But what's upsetting is, all the anime people who are going up to them like, oh, this is ignorant. Why can you be like this? You're all wrong and everything's wrong. And it's like, no, that's the point, right? You're just trying to get rises out of each other to start this argument, right? Get over it. If you're into nerdy stuff, be into nerdy stuff. If you're not into nerdy stuff and you believe that there's a higher power out there, and so much so to a point that you have to go to those people and protest, you're just as much of a problem as they are for not following it, because you're actively causing a problem, right? It's just, I think they're really coming down to wanting the argument, because in a way it validates them. In a way it gives them like this purpose, right? Because both sides just think the other side is wrong. And and I'm not going to choose sides, right? Because there's good and bad across all ends of it, right? Like, I overheard one guy be like, but it's just ignorant. And he was saying to the religious protesters or whatever. I think they were protesting because they had signs, but it didn't feel like they were chanting or anything. It just felt like there was a bunch of people arguing in a crowd, and some of them are holding signs. And I was just like, in my mind, I think if you don't pay attention to them, they're not going to get any bigger, right? If you just let them go and you just go, those guys are friggin' dumb, aren't they? Because we live in a world of free speech. They're going to talk about it. We can just walk by and just go, man, those guys are dumb. If you really don't agree with them. I'm not saying that I would say that. I just thought the whole situation was dumb. No matter which side I would have been on, I thought both sides arguing was just dumb. I just thought it's not worth it. We're trying to figure out this world. There's no use trying to convert somebody else because they're going to be just as stubborn as you, right? And it's just that's my mentality on things like that. But Anime North was an absolutely great time, and it was because of the friends I got to hang out with and the people. It's an excuse to hang out. I barely even go to the convention. I don't go to many of the panels, but to see the cosplay and to just walk around all these very optimistic, excited, just the fandom. It's a beautiful experience. It's really, I really just enjoy, just the livelihood of the crowd. And I saw the fun in people watching, right? When you walk by someone and you get just part of their conversation, you get like the punchline of their joke, but you didn't hear any of the context. And they're just like, bro, and that's when she flipped out. And then you're just like, camera died on me again. And it's just like, what do you mean? Like, when she flipped out, like, but you would like just turn to each other. It's like, bro, do you hear that? She flipped out. Like, it's just, and that's the beauty of it. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below what kind of games you want me to talk about. If you want me to talk about any games on here, try to stick to stuff that I've played. If you want to give me like a more like specific topic, things like that, we can do things like that. I'll have notes. And I'm just going to feel it out as I go. I'm not going to try to set out any plans. I'm just going to try once a week to get in front of this camera, maybe every Sunday night, maybe every Monday. We'll see how it goes. And I'll just try to talk about stuff. Yeah, because I've been in a tough place in my life, and I'm trying to find the way out. And the part of me is just thinking, if I have a message, if I really do feel like I have something to express and some creativity to put out there, if there's a personality in me that I want to put out there, I'm just going to try and do it. So bear with me. I know this channel has been going through like changes and it can't seem to stick to anything consistent. It's just because I'm trying to find the right thing to do. And people would argue like, oh, just keep working on doing the same thing you're doing. If you can keep putting out a video every week, you'll grow as a YouTuber or whatever. But if the moment you start forcing content is the moment the quality goes down, right? So I don't know. So we'll see how things go. Bear with me. Let me know how you feel in the comments down below. I'll probably read some comments in future videos, and there's tons of comments I can even go back to and read over, which could be fun little points of discussion. Heck, tell me to like review some of my own videos. That'd be kind of funny. Anyway, the camera's dead. I'm not putting on any more video footage, I guess, because I don't want to hit record again. But thank you all again so much for tuning in. If you've listened to this all the way through, holy crap, you're awesome. But I'm going to look at the analytics, and it's just going to plummet at like the 10-minute mark or something. Who knows? There's a lot of ums and whatever, but I'll try to edit it just a little bit. Excuse me. I know I burped there. It was really ugly. Oh, I'm all gassy now. Oh, it's time to stop. Okay, so 1 hour seems like a good amount of time. Thank you all so much again, and I will see you all whenever I make the next one of these things. Who knows? Thanks for putting up with me again, and we'll have to work on some sort of outro. But yeah, if I get sponsors or something, that would be nice. But anyway, talk to you guys later.